Have you ever said, "I'll do it tomorrow"? Tomorrow, I'll start praying consistently. Tomorrow, I'll read my Bible. Tomorrow, I'll study harder. Tomorrow, I'll work on that dream. Tomorrow, I'll stop wasting so much time. Tomorrow, I'll finally become disciplined. And somehow, tomorrow keeps becoming another tomorrow. You wake up with the same intentions, but at the end of the day, you're still in the same place. You know what you should be doing. You know what you've been called to do. You know there is more inside you, but you keep postponing it. And eventually, you start calling yourself lazy. But what if the problem isn't simply that you're lazy? What if you've become too comfortable with delay? Because delay feels harmless. You don't lose anything today. You tell yourself you'll make up for it tomorrow. But days become weeks. Weeks become months. And months become years. And suddenly, you look back and realize that the life you kept saying you would start never actually started. Maybe that's why you're here. Not because you need another motivational speech, but because somewhere deep inside, you need to get up. And perhaps God has been saying the same thing. Stop saying tomorrow. Start today. There is a story Jesus told that makes me think deeply about this. In Matthew 25, Jesus tells us about a master who was going on a journey. Before he left, he called 3 servants and entrusted his possessions to them. To one servant, he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1. Each servant received something. Not the same amount, but each one received something. The first servant went and put his talents to work. The second did the same. But the third servant, he took what he had received and buried it. He didn't lose it. He didn't give it away. He didn't destroy it. He simply did nothing with it. And when the master returned, the servant explained that he had been afraid, so he buried what had been entrusted to him. Think about that. He still had the talent, but he had nothing to show for it. And sometimes, that's what our lives look like. God has already placed something in your hands. A gift, an opportunity, an idea, a dream, a skill, a responsibility, a relationship, a purpose, maybe even a simple assignment that you've been avoiding. But instead of using what God gave you, you've buried it underneath excuses. I don't have enough time. I'm not ready. I'll start when things get better. I'll do it tomorrow. And perhaps the most dangerous excuse of all, I'm waiting for motivation. But what if motivation never comes? What if you have to start before you feel ready? What if discipline means doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like doing it? Proverbs 6 tells the lazy person to consider the ant. The ant doesn't need someone standing over it every morning, saying, "Come on, get up, go to work." It simply understands what it needs to do. There is something powerful about that, because discipline isn't about constantly feeling motivated. Discipline is about deciding that something matters enough to do it consistently. You won't always feel like praying. You won't always feel like studying. You won't always feel like studying. You won't always feel like working. You won't always feel inspired. You won't always wake up excited about your purpose. But your feelings cannot be allowed to become the master of your life. Because if you only act when you feel like it, you'll spend a lot of your life waiting. Waiting for motivation. Waiting for confidence. Waiting for the perfect opportunity. Waiting for the perfect time. Waiting for tomorrow. But tomorrow isn't promised. And the assignment you've been postponing may be waiting for your obedience today. Maybe you've been asking God, "Lord, give me more. More opportunities, more money, more influence, more success, more responsibility, more doors." But sometimes we ask God for more, while refusing to be faithful with what we already have. We want the next level, but we haven't taken care of the level we're currently on. We want God to give us a platform, but we haven't been faithful in private, We want the big opportunity, but we're neglecting the small responsibility sitting right in front of us. We want the harvest, but we don't want the discipline of planting. And I'm not saying this to condemn you. I'm saying it because there is something beautiful about realizing that you can change. You don't have to remain the person who keeps postponing everything. You don't have to remain trapped in the same habits. You don't have to keep burying what God has given you. You can get up. You can start again. You can become disciplined, and you can start today. But here's something important. Discipline doesn't mean becoming perfect overnight. You don't need to wake up tomorrow and completely transform your life. Start small. If you've been struggling to pray, don't promise God that you'll pray for 3 hours every morning. Start with 10 minutes. If you've been avoiding your studies, don't tell yourself you're going to study for 12 hours straight. Start with 30 focused minutes. If you've been neglecting your dream, don't worry about building the entire thing today. Take the first step. If you've been spending hours scrolling through your phone, put it down for 1 hour. If you've been saying, "I'll start tomorrow," then do something about it today. Because small acts of obedience repeated consistently can create a life that looks completely different over time. And maybe your biggest problem isn't laziness. Maybe it's fear. Fear that you'll fail. Fear that people will laugh. Fear that you won't be good enough. Fear that you won't be good enough. Fear that you'll start and then quit. Fear that you'll discover you're not as talented as you thought. But listen carefully. Fear is not an excuse to bury what God gave you. The servant with 1 talent was afraid, and his fear became his reason for doing nothing. Don't let fear make you inactive. You don't have to know exactly how everything will work out. You just have to take the next faithful step. Peter didn't know everything that would happen when Jesus told him to step out of the boat. Abraham didn't know every detail of the journey when God called him to leave. The disciples didn't understand everything when Jesus called them to follow him. Sometimes faith looks like moving before you have every answer. Sometimes obedience looks like starting before you're confident. And sometimes the miracle isn't waiting for you at the finish line. It's waiting for you to take the first step. So here's your challenge. Not next week, not next week, not next month. Today, think about one thing you've been postponing. Just one. Maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's studying. Maybe it's studying. Maybe it's applying for that opportunity. Maybe it's starting the business. Maybe it's writing the book. Maybe it's repairing your relationship with God. Maybe it's finally taking care of a responsibility you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, write it down, then ask God, "Lord, what is the next step you want me to take?" And when you know the answer, take it. Don't wait until you feel motivated. Don't wait until everything is perfect. Don't wait until you're no longer afraid. Start with what you have. Because remember the servant with the talents. The master didn't ask him why he didn't have 5 talents. He asked what he had done with what was entrusted to him. And maybe that's a question worth asking yourself today. What am I doing with what God has already placed in my hands? Your gift may still be buried. Your dream may still be buried. Your discipline may still be buried. Your potential may still be buried. But it doesn't have to stay there. You can dig it up. You can begin again. You can stop wasting the days you've been given. Because you don't need another year of saying, "Tomorrow." You need 1 day of saying, "Today. Today, I'll pray. Today, I'll start. Today, I'll study. Today, I'll work. Today, I'll work. Today, I'll obey. Today, I'll take the first step." And maybe you won't see a dramatic change immediately, but keep going. Because Galatians 6 verse 9 reminds us not to grow weary in doing good. Because in due season, we will reap if we do not give up. So, don't despise the small beginning. Don't underestimate one disciplined decision. Don't underestimate one prayer. Don't underestimate 1 hour of focused work. Don't underestimate 1 step of obedience. Your life doesn't change because you finally feel motivated. Sometimes your life changes because you finally decide, enough. Enough procrastination. Enough excuses. Enough burying what God gave me. Enough waiting for tomorrow, because tomorrow belongs to God. But today is in your hands. And maybe this is your moment to rise, not because you're suddenly perfect. Not because you have everything figured out, but because you've finally decided to be faithful with what God has already placed in your hands. So, get up, pray, start, work, obey, and keep going. Because the thing you've been asking God to change may begin with the step you've been refusing to take. Stop saying tomorrow. God is calling you to start today. God is calling you higher.